Well folks, we've got a repair from our mystery benefactor Alan, so this will go back to him eventually via his intermediary. He's already done the power lead. As you know, we supply both ends of these connectors with genuine ones, and he's made himself a power lead up with an inline fuse just as it should be done with one of those connectors we supply. So, well, he's done some refinishing to this, and this is entirely his business. I don't want an orange Commtron 40F, but he does, and he's got a matching genuine mic which has now got an orange bit there, and he's got a note: power's on, transmits, FM hiss does not sound right to me. Now that's going to either be the detector or one or both of the IF filters. I've also changed the mic insert. It came off eBay and the seller said faulty mic. So, without further ado, we may as well just power it up as it is and run through the tests. So we're at 13.8 volts, power on, select channel 20, and we need to plug the mic in. Well, at the moment the FM hiss sounds right, but there may be situations it doesn't. So on this one it's high-low power. Yes, it will be, won't it, on the Commtron, because it's the Colt 295 and the Colt 295A. There's either high-low RF gain or high-low power, depending whether it's the 9 or the 295 without the A, in which case it has high-low RF gain, or the 295A, in which case it has high-low power in line with the MPT 1320 specification. So I'll plug the test gear in shortly. We'll go through transmitter first. Just turn that down. So I think he said has he put a new mic insert in this? Did he say? Yes, he has. Good. Right, picture in picture on. Test set to a meter onto camera onto appropriate meter, or select appropriate camera more like. Let's see what happens. Bang on 3 watts. So we'll select channel 1. Be great in a Lamborghini. I saw one in a disabled space outside a gymnasium yesterday. .9 watts on channel 1. And on channel 40, what's it going to be? 3.1? No, it's going to be 2.8 watts. Low power should be 400 milliwatts, and it is 260 milliwatts. And back into normal power. Oh, that was a flawed test. I've still got it on channel 40. Try again. 220 milliwatts. And back on normal power, and the radio is drawing 946 milliamps. Now the test gear's been on for a few hours, so we'll go over to the frequency counter and see how we're doing frequency wise. 27,79083, so one's pulling up a bit. It's not scarily out. 27,79083. We don't do the VCO on these if they work on 1 and 40 because the manufacturer doesn't put all the parts in to test the VCO. Then we have to fit the parts, which of course has a cost, and if the set's working and hasn't been fiddled with in that direction, well, there's no point doing it. It's just wasting customers' money. Unlike car main dealers, I'm not looking for work. No, we'll go to that meter. Wallow, wallow, wallow. It's 1.2. Now, sometimes this deviation meter plays up on this test set, so we'll have a second opinion and then adjust it all in one fell swoop. So the meter, when we key up, swings across to 3.9, which is about, doesn't matter what the power is, you always set them for 4 because it's psychological. I know it seems disingenuous, but that's what it is. Meter lamp works, switches work, potentiometers work, sockets work, PA function. So on these you turn the squelch knob anti-clockwise to that position. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2, 1 2 1 2. Well, he's done a nice job of the mic insert, hasn't he? If this is a Maxon mic, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. We'll do it on that, and then we'll go over to that one of his at the end. Right, so PA's fine, mic's fine, speakers fine, definitely, and we'll plug now into external speaker socket with the test equipment. I still haven't unattenuated this test speaker. I thought it was a good idea Christmas Day, and it isn't. So on the signal generator we'll dial in 2779086, so it is exactly off frequency like the set is at the moment. Otherwise we'd be giving it an unfair test if I got the signal generator on frequency when we know the radio is off frequency. That's why we use this model, because it isn't in steps. There we go. That will do me nicely. Okay. Let's go over to the SINAD meter and let's see what we're getting. Oh, better turn the squelch down. I'm actually doing another of those Danita 1240s, where the first one we did, which we were passed on by one of our kind viewers, the deviation wasn't quite where we wanted it, and this second one's the same, so I'm going to be coming up with a modification so that we can get the deviation we want on that, and then we'll be flogging that set, starting the bidding to repair. Well, it has to be less than repair cost. It's quite a tatty set, but it's a nice working set. And you know what? Not everybody wants a set that is pristine out of a box. Somebody actually wants to put them in a vehicle and use them. Yeah, they actually want to use them. And that's when you can put a scruffy set in your car. Nobody's going to look twice at it. And as long as it works really well, you've cracked it on the cheap. So, what have we got for 12 dog biscuits? Well, we've got a very good 0.55. Because if the detector's out and I adjusted the detector, that might become worse. Now that is already better than manufacturer's spec. 0.49. I put it in the wrong box. 0.49. Oh, it's not doing that though. No, it won't do. It will not do 20 dB. I'll just turn the volume down. There's less distortion. No, it won't do. Will not do it. Let's look at squelch. Let's go back to the normal speaker instead of my daft attenuated one. so you can hear it. So I'm going to turn the squelch to full. Put this up onto the camera for the attenuator. So full squelch, and we've got 3 microvolts. So I want the squelch to open at 100. Now there isn't a hard and fast rule on this, it's just my experience. That's S9 equivalent, because you don't really want a radio where the full squelch never ever opens. So here we go, 10, 30, 100. So it's not only 100, 300, so it's opening at 2.4 millivolts, which is too tight. So we'll now back that off to 0.3 of a microvolts and put the signal generator to standby. Now we'll turn down the squelch on the radio and switch the signal generator back on. 0.49. Very good. But he's right, it doesn't sound right. That was using the word right twice. He is quite correct, it doesn't sound right when you actually have a signal on it. So I don't know whether the meter's adjustable on this, but right now it's showing what? For S9 it is 205 microvolts. So it's a bit tight-fisted. Right, we'll open it up. Make sure the soldering iron's on, because we're going to be unsoldering the speaker. One thing, if anybody ever nicked this set off him, it'd be pretty easy to track down, stand out like a fluorescent sore thumb. So just having a quick look, are there any tired looking capacitors or anything like that? And the answer is no. So we've got a preset there which is going to be low power. We've got a preset on the back of the meter, so on this version you can adjust the S meter. And then the back one's going to be RF meter and the front one's going to be deviation. So there we go. Let's start by putting the radio on frequency. So key it up, 2779079. Do you know what? I've actually gone in the right direction today. So despite being 40 years old, it's still pulling up to not only but beyond, and we'll leave it at that. So it's got, because it dropped with age, 2779127, because it should be 2779125. We'll just go that a little bit beyond so that it has room to drop. It wasn't illegally off frequency, it wasn't noticeably off frequency where it was anyway. That's quite acceptable. If it hadn't have come up at all, that would still have been quite acceptable. Right, so we'll go over to the main meter and see if we can get a little bit more out of it. It's pretty well balanced, but we'd like to get that little bit more out of it. So we're not going to touch the VCO. I'm just trying to get this absolutely central. That's why you do it on channel 20. So the peak is perfectly central. because it's dropping as it heats up, which is what does happen. It wasn't that far out of being central on those. So now we go for the pre-driver. That's it. And then this one, driver. Not a lot of change. And then the one you actually set the power with, the final one, I'd like it to be more than 3.5 watts. But these are commercial, it's a commercial test set, and it's pretty different to hobby watts because it's only reading what's going out on this particular frequency. We're at 3.6 watts there. Now it will be more. I'm not going to write that down yet because I've warmed the setup dramatically with having been in transmit for about 4 minutes. I don't like that transistor over there. The placement of these coils is critical. It's fine. Good. Well, you know, it doesn't seem to have been screwdrivered. It's nice. So let's have a look at the deviation, and we'll do that by plugging into the test set behind me and see what it really is. Because I get the impression that the Marconi test set's playing up today. We'll soon find out. We have got an Noxy Man's SINAD meter kits, which Mr. Chip is going to start putting together shortly, so that's going to be interesting. Wow, it's 2.2, so it's really pretty close. So deviation is that one. Wow, that's it. Wow, there we are. We'll go back to the Marconi test set and see what its final decision is, or whether it wants to ring a friend. You see, I know these catchphrases despite not having had a television since 1999. Wow, it says 1.6, so it's lying today. So in fact it was 2.1 kilohertz and it's now 2.2 to 2.5 kilohertz. So there we go, that's sorted that. So we'll come back to the power meter. I'll tell you, no, we can do the power meter now. It's not exactly like it needs. It's not exactly important, shall I say. It's reading well over, so we'll set that to 4. And remember, on a relative power meter like this, it's relative to SWR and reactance and all kinds of things. So when we put this on an aerial, it may only key up to 2 or 1, or it might swing across. Remember, the radio is still doing whatever power the radio is doing. So if it's 3.6 watts, it'll still be 3.6 watts, even if the meter only reads 1, or if the meter bangs across. I've had people going, oh, what? I don't know what power you've set that to, but it's banging across. Well, I haven't. It's 4 watts. You know, it's relative, and this is probably why the manufacturers of new radios are putting fake power meters on, which are pre-programmed to read what they want them to read. They don't read power at all. We've taken the PA transistor out, and the meters still swing across and say you're doing 4 watts. Just to prove the point. But they're all doing it. I think it's only the Midland 78 multi that's been in production that long in its different guises that it has a real relative power meter and not a pretend one. So we've done that. Let's do the receiver. I've set that. So we now put the receiver onto the proper frequency, 27.79125. There we go. And now we'll go over to the oscilloscope and see whether our nasty sounding receive, which won't do 20 dB, is the detector or whether it's a fault. But with the kind of sensitivity we've got, I'm not going to think it's a fault. I think it's the tuning. So we've got 100 microvolts on the signal generator. It looks a bit lopsided, doesn't it, that? Yes, Mr. Tango, it does. So it's the one at the front here, which is neatly under the wiring. Yeah, miles out. Absolutely miles out. There we go. Right, we'll go over to the SINAD meter. We're staying with 100 microvolts for now, and you can see that the needle's well beyond the 20, and even now with no further adjustment we've got 1 microvolt for 20 dB. So that's made all the difference. So we'll drop the signal so that we're not saturating the receiver. So we're just around about 4 dB on the SINAD meter. We're trying to go to the left. So we'll turn the first coil at the front end. And that's made a difference. So we now drop the attenuator back to about 4 dB. Next coil. That's about where it was. Next coil. Might need to put a bigger signal on. I think we're heading on to the IF, the intermediate frequency. Yes, we are. And again with this IF. That was absolutely perfect as it was. Change tools. That was absolutely perfect as it was. I'm just going to make sure the detector is still in the correct position. Yes, it is. And now we'll read off what we've got. So for 12 dB, we've now got 0.49. It's not come up a lot. It was already very good. I think the manufacturer says better than 1 or better than 0.7 or something like that. Certainly not the sensitivity you get on a Banatone 5-star, but it doesn't make these a crap set. They're a very competent set, though they do suffer from desense, not bleed over desense. But that's only a problem if you have got people every other house with CB. So 10 dB, 0.46. So because the detector was out, it was actually falsely more sensitive than it really was, if you can understand that. That's why you haven't got a tremendously better. It's exactly 1 microvolt. So that's fantastic. Let's now look at the squelch. So I'm going to turn the squelch back to full. 3, 10. I'll put the attenuator on so you can see that. 10, 30. Remember it's 100 I'm looking for. So we'll adjust the squelch preset for 100. That's dirty. You know what? These are silver plated. I'll show you on this one. This makes absolutely no difference that the top surface is polished, but I'll just show you on this with the fiberglass brush. Look how clean that's come up, and I say they're silver plated, these. Won't be getting like that kind of presets these days. So squelched it at 100, I want it to open at 100. It's not going to do that. So the best we can get, and so there's no hard and fast rule for maximum. Is actually not a lot better than the way it was, which is 1.3 millivolts. Let's see where we are at the sensitive end. At least it opens. So once again, we'll turn it to 0.3 of a microvolt, put the signal generators to standby. I'll plug in the normal speaker so you can hear it more readily. So, set threshold. .72. So squelch works fine. It's just at the top end a little harsher than I would like. So that's how it is. So on the signal meter, we put a 100 millivolt signal. Sorry, a 100 microvolt signal. What does the meter read? Well, it reads just over 8. So because we can adjust it on this particular set, this is December 1981, so it's not in the first batch. We've now got S9, so that's correct. Right, we'll go back to transmit and see what it's doing now it hasn't been sat there transmitting and getting hot. Let's go back to the main meter. That was 3.6 watts. It's 3.8. And on channel 40, it's 3.6. And on channel 1, it's 3.9. So there we go. So we've gained 0.8 of a watt. Let's see what the current consumption is now. Go back to channel 20. Not that this makes much difference to your range, it might add 100 yards. Don't any of you to think that if you have a 3 watt radio and you get 3 miles, if you had a 4 watt radio you get 4 miles. It does not work like that. Just like a record player amplifier isn't 25% louder if it was 4 watts instead of 3 watts. So, current consumption is now 1 amp. So for 50 milliamps, we've gained another 0.8 of a watt, so that's great. Low power is now or it helps if I switch to low power, doesn't it? It's now 380 milliwatts. So it's just about corrected itself. We'll go up to 400 by adjusting the preset. There we are, bang on 400 milliwatts. It's funny how a lot of this comes into place once you've done a retune. So there we go. put the aerial in. And we'll turn it to 19 while we put the rest of it together. You never know, we might hear somebody from Nottingham. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and it is Wednesday. So he's done all the work on this set himself, just needed a retune and test, and that puts it into a very different tariff than if we have to start doing repairs. Yeah, of course I can't put it back together, can I? Well, it hasn't said anything yet. There we are, all put back together. Let's see if the internal speaker does actually work. One. Helps me go to high power. 19, Roger. Oh well, it's not going to say anything, so we'll do an on-the-air test later on today with Mr. Chippy. So that was nice and straightforward, just a retune and test. Thanks for watching Commtron CB40F from 1981.